Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at a bit of a monster of a synth, and I'm not going to try and pick it up and turn it around. It's far too heavy. It's the Arturia PolyBrute. When I said in the intro, this is heavy, it really is. It weighs in at over 20 kilograms, and that's because it's jam-packed with analog circuitry. It's got 6 voices on these 2 VCOs, we've got 2 analog filters, we've got 3 envelopes, we've got 3 LFOs, we've got this really cool matrix thing in the center that I'll describe in a minute, plus we've got a load of effects and an ARP and a sequencer. Should we start off by trying to break down that intro track? We just press play here. The minute you turn this on, you realize quite how hands-on it is and quite how much you can do in a live setting. There I'm just modulating the filter with the mod wheel. And you can set that up to do all sorts of things, well, pretty much anything actually. And on this patch, we've also got this ribbon controller that's doing other things. So that's adding and taking away some delay and reverb. The other thing it's got down here is this Morphe or Morphe. I think you pronounce it Morphe, and this has got 3 dimensions of control. You've got up and down like a XY pad, and then you've got the X direction as well. And if we look at the screen here, we can see it's doing things as I move left and right and up and down. And if we have a little play, and that's blending between 2 sounds and then doing other modulations as well. So on the XY planes, we're blending between this A and B sound. So every patch you've got on this has got an A and a B tone. There's A and there's B, and you can blend between them. And that's not fading one sound into the other, it's actually changing the positions of the knobs to move from one sound to the other. So it's completely different than just blending 2 signals on a mixer, for example. So as we move from left to right on the Morphe knob, we're doing this effectively. When we push it down, it sounds like it's increasing the release or something. Yeah, so when we play the sequence, so there's tons of fun just bringing up the patches and playing around with them, and there's loads of really cool stuff in here. And some rather mad stuff as well. If we go back to the original patch, And with those two patches, the mad accordion and the trancy thing, I'm just showing that the keyboard can be split into two halves. On those, the bottom half is playing the sequence and the top half is playing something else. Again, just showing you how flexible it is. So I think that gives you an overall feel for it. Should we dig in a little bit deeper? And starting off as I normally do with the sound sources, which are the oscillators, we've got two oscillators here, VCO1 and VCO2, plus a sub oscillator, and we've got some noise, and they all go through this little mixer here. And just taking a quick listen to them. There we've got a triangle, a sawtooth and a pulse, and you can blend between them. You can change the pulse width, you can do everything that you'd expect on an analog synth. And these are VCOs, which are voltage controlled oscillators. So these are the 70s technology, not digitally controlled, not digital oscillators. This is why this thing's so heavy. We've also got on this metallizer. So that takes things to places most synths can't. Oh, it's dirty that, isn't it? And that's before I've done anything else. Let's automate that. Got this little knob here called motion record. Let's put that into record. And now that'll play that back. And that's a lovely little trick, that is, because you can do things that you can't do on a standard envelope or a standard LFO. Let's try something a bit more complex. That's the sub on its own. And that's oscillator 2 on its own. So we blend between them here. And we can use oscillator 2 to modulate oscillator 1, so that's FM. So if we put them both together, let's take the FM off. Add the sub. So it's got a really nice analog fat feel to it. Let's put that in unison, so we're playing all 6 voices at the same time. And let's detune that a little. Let's go into the modulation. Let's voices, pitch global. And let's just detune it a little. Until it's completely demonic. That's a bit like the THX sound in the cinema. But there you go, nice big fat rich analog tones. And then we go from the oscillators, as we normally do, into the filters. And the filter section, like everything else on this, isn't your standard filter section. We've got 2 separate filters with distinct tones. The top one here is the Steiner-Parker filter that they use on the Mini Brute and the Micro Brute. Put a sequence on that. It's that simple to put a sequence on. So there we've got a really nasty, dirty, growling, howling filter. We've also got a nice smooth filter. The bottom one is based on the Moog ladder filter, and that's renowned for being really smooth. Let's put it through that one only. And that sounds amazingly smooth and reserved and calm and like the gentleman filter compared to the dirty little rascal. That's the Steiner-Parker. That's quite incredible, the difference. But that's why they've got the 2 filters on there. And what we can do is we can send them through both filters, through one filter on its own. We can send one through one, another through another. And then we've got series or parallel, so you can have them blend in together or split. Loads and loads of different options. So there I've set it up so oscillator 1 is going through the Steiner-Parker and oscillator 2 is going through the ladder filter. So you can almost have 2 separate tones playing, so you can do little things like this. So, a really brilliant filter section. Envelopes and LFOs, we'll ignore them because it's sort of standard stuff, even though there are things on this that you can't do on other things. Let's take a look at this cool looking matrix, shall we? And the matrix is used for picking presets. So we've got 1 to 8, and each of those has got from A to L. So you pick a page, 1 to 8, let's pick page 1, and let's pick F3. And you can hear there's all sorts of modulation happening. If you press this, we can see what modulation is actually happening. So we've got 4 pages of modulation destinations, 1, 2, 3, and 4. On page 1, we can see where the modulations are, as we can on page 2, but there's nothing on page 3 or page 4. And now if we press sequence set and we go into page 1, we can see our sequence. And we've got up to 3 lanes of automation in here as well, so we could twiddle 3 knobs and it'll record that. Let's do the master cutoff. And then we can go and we can edit that as well if we want. But now you've heard what it can do, is it for you? Well, it all depends on how much cash you've got, because something like this isn't going to come cheap. It's over €2,500, and you can see why. It's an absolutely fabulous bit of kit. So it's not for someone on a budget. This is your big present. This is your big birthday present or your new car, basically, isn't it? It's fabulous. It makes a great centerpiece for a studio. But if you are thinking of spending over £2,000, €2,000, $2,000 on a synth, you will be looking at other things. It's quite a crowded marketplace these days. There's lots on offer. We are lucky like that, but this really does fight its corner. It's well worth a look and highly recommended. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, don't forget you can catch it whenever you like on our Clubbing TV official YouTube channel on the From the Studio playlist. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And if you are into your music tech, do check out my Starsky Carr channel as well, where I've got a comparison of this versus the Udo 6, which is rather interesting as well. So I will see you in the next episode of From the Studio.